Hello, welcome back, or welcome to...
Welcome back.
welcome back to the Lights Out podcast, but welcome to the Dead Air podcast, because we've changed the name of it. Thank you, other Lights Out podcast, which came out of nowhere during
I was looking
COVID.
at that earlier. They've got like so many views now. It's like thousands and thousands.
I had a little bit of a look into it because I thought that we might have to discuss it. But basically, it was a different podcast.
Yeah.
It was the same theme, so it was horror. But it was talking. The name of it was like there was 3 people that run it, like us, and the name of the podcast was the blank blank and blank show. And then I think one of them went solo, and then instead of it was still called the John, David, and Ashley show, and so we just changed it to the Lights Out podcast.
Yeah.
And he has 150,000 subscribers.
So they already had the fan base there,
which we cannot compete with. So we originally wanted to call the podcast Dead Air when we started it anyway.
It's such a sick name.
Exactly. Perfect time, I would say, to change it all around. So, welcome back. You might notice one specific thing. There is no James here today. We have replaced him.
Get the replacement James out.
Here it is.
We haven't got a name
James.
for it yet. Maybe we should call it James.
I wanted to have a little pet for the podcast. Just because. I don't know. There was no specific reason. I just thought it would be cool. We haven't got a name for it yet. It's a crow. Let me do a little close-up on the crow.
Put your hand
it's not
behind
a crow.
it,
It's a raven.
It
Put
is
my
a
hand
raven.
behind it like it's a makeup tutorial. Here
It's
is
beautiful.
one dead raven skeleton. It's made out of
Brilliant.
plastic. Vegans. Sorry. We haven't got a name for it yet. I'm just going to put it there. I'm not even sure if that's in shot. We hope. So we're going to make a poll, or just like a questionnaire on our Instagram.
Yeah. What do you think this
raven
raven skeleton should be called?
The raven skeleton should be called our newest pet. Our replacement for James, because he is on holiday. It's not a replacement forever. I probably should have prefaced that, because all the James fanboys are crying right now.
Yeah.
No, it's just a temporary replacement because
he did bring so much to the podcast.
he did. No, James is on holiday in...
He's not on holidays working, is he?
Oh, I don't know.
In Lanzarote.
Lanzarote. Or as he called it, Lanza.
Lanza.
So today is going to be the day where we find out if we can run a podcast without James.
Yeah.
I think the answer.
I think we all know the answer to that.
Okay, so I've got a list here of stuff to talk about. I should have even mentioned Happy Halloween. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's coming out on Halloween. Halloween special. Start of season 2. Name change.
How exciting.
It's a big
Everything's going
episode.
for us,
The
even
worst
though
member's gone.
We were meant to have lots of Halloween decorations, but
My
Renny,
bad. That is my fault.
Yeah, Renny didn't get them.
I promised and I didn't deliver. I said, he was like, do you want to get some Halloween decorations? And I was like, yeah, we'll go to Tesco before. I've been very busy today. Probably shouldn't have left it to the last day, to be honest. But I told him that the only thing I could bring was RGB strip lights, LED strip lights, and whatever this guy's going to be called.
Manky Crow.
I brought the RGB lights, but I forgot the remote. So it only shows blue light, which isn't very
Spooky.
I wanted to show maybe purple to match the new colour theme, or orange maybe for Halloween.
I've had to be scribbling away on that whiteboard behind him to try and make it as spooky as possible. And also, there's a little drawing of James on there, which we'll get a cutaway of it, a close up.
Take a picture of that and insert it in.
That's
as I
him
said,
in Lanzarote as we speak.
Yeah, as I said a second ago, we could have gone with orange RGB lights. We didn't end up going with any, but the second colour that I was going to maybe go for was purple, because we've got a new logo. I just wanted to mention this off the start. You will have seen it. I've been working with the person who's been making it. Nora, I think is her name. Friend from Spain from my school.
It is a really good logo,
and it is very good. She's very talented. She's gone to university somewhere in the UK to do graphic design, and she reached out and she was like, saw that you were changing your name. You're going to need a new logo. I'm your man/woman.
The only thing I'm not sure on is the purple.
That was my idea. I thought purple neon. I thought it was a sick idea. I really like it. It's going to be the theme of the whole show, so get used to it. This is a Halloween special. We thought what we'd do today is we just have
like a catch up.
Little catch up.
Yeah.
Talk about a couple of things. And we've got slightly different idea for the stories. Usually we'd have a guest. If you don't know, if this is your first episode that you're listening to, we usually have a guest on. They tell us their spookiest, real paranormal story that's happened to them. We haven't got a guest this week, slightly because of COVID, but not really, because we can have a guest in, it being just me and Jack.
Yeah.
But
I mean, how would we get a guest in the future? Would it just be over the phone or whatever?
No, guest. We can have a guest next door, and we can do it on the road, which we're planning on doing one of, but I like it in studio.
It is nice.
And
it's like being back home.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've been in here since like March.
I know, it's really good. This is the first day that it's been open, the studio.
Yeah, so we've got the first evening slot.
I was emailing the uni, I was like, we've got a really great podcast, you should listen to it. We really want to open it again before Halloween, please, 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 please. And they were like, oh, well, we think we're going to open it again, but we don't know when it's going to be because we have to organise cleaning arrangements and safety protocols. So we don't know when it's going to be, we'll let you know. And so we were making arrangements to do this from my house. And luckily, like 3 days ago, the uni emailed me and was like, you've been asking us a lot about it, so we thought we'd let you know that you can now book them out. Yeah. As of Monday, which is today, we've got the first slot. I don't think anyone's been here before us. I think they've had a class here this morning, but this is the first like independent thing that's been filmed here, which I'm very happy about. I really wanted to get this out for Halloween. And hopefully it's going to be a good episode. What we're going to do today, instead of having a guest tell us their story, we've gone out and we found some stories.
The scariest stories
The scariest stories that the internet can provide. I mean, we can only get stories from people that we know. Now we've got the best stories on the internet that we're going to be sharing with you later.
It was difficult, though, finding stories yesterday night. I was up into the early morning.
Yeah.
For stories, and then I found one.
I've got a whole page. We're going to talk about the best one on this page that I found. It's an interactive one. There's a video to watch. There's some captured footage of this creepy thing, and also captured noise of it as well.
Ooh,
so for our Spotify and Apple Podcast listeners who aren't watching on YouTube, but just a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about before we get into those is. I've got a list here. One of them is Jack's jingle. Da-da! Do you want to explain that?
Well. So we were discussing, because obviously the whole thing happened with it's weird because I'm talking to the camera now. I wouldn't usually talk to the camera because it's just two of us.
Yeah.
Because you know this.
Right.
So I'm saying this directly to you viewers at home. So we came up with the name Dead Air. And then I was like, well, we need a classic jingle.
Well, like a motto.
Yeah, like a motto.
Yeah.
So I thought, Dead Air. Dead Air.
Dead Air. I thought it was really good. I put it down to mention it. I thought it was really good. I've also got here decorated background, which hasn't happened. I've got pest. I knew pet. Which
pest. We've got pests in our house.
It is a bit of a pest, actually. Jack didn't like it. Jack thought it was a bit ugly.
It's not very nice.
I really like it. I think maybe it needs painting. It's not a very nice colour.
Paint it purple.
Paint it purple, of course. Okay. When you're thinking of names, keep in mind that it's going to be purple. We'll find a way to do that. I'm going to have to get purple spray paint now. And I think that is all I've got. So let us move on to our first story. Should we do mine first? Yeah. Actually, before we get to that, I've got a comment that was left on your dad's episode 1, so episode 4.
Big up John Lewin.
With John Lewin. And we were talking about... I've made a little writing thing here. Cara Copland commented on my story about dogs having a sixth sense and instinct knowledge of how delicate eggs are. So if you remember way back, however many months ago that was,
March.
Realistically only 2 episodes of the podcast ago.
March the 8th.
March the 8th, wow.
Was when we filmed it.
We were having an episode with your dad, John Lewin, and in it, there was a little bit where I mentioned about how I thought dogs were a bit creepy instinctually because they know how delicate eggs are.
Instinctively.
Yeah, if you put an egg in a dog's mouth, and don't try this at home if you don't want to, but I tried it for you, and it worked on my dogs. But they know how delicate eggs are, and they don't smash them, even though they've probably not had any other prior knowledge. They're mammals, and my dogs haven't eaten raw eggs before, so how would they know, basically? And someone mentioned on that, defo somewhat weird with canines and eggs. I have a hunting hound that has separation anxiety, so I don't leave him alone. An old man passing by as I unchained him outside a shop told me about his own hound with the same problem. He was forced to take his wife to hospital once and reluctantly had to leave his hound indoors. When he returned home, it had somehow managed to remove 3 eggs from the kitchen and taken them to its bed. He thought it was hoarding food for later, but we don't know why it chose raw eggs. Nothing else was moved or destroyed amongst its panic, nothing was destroyed amongst its panic whilst alone. 3 eggs is just bizarre. Religious even. Lol.
Yeah.
3 eggs taken.
So they just
in a
like,
rage.
Out of the fridge? Like,
I don't know.
Where were the eggs?
They must have been out. They must have been left out. Some people don't put them in the fridge. I don't put them in the fridge. Is that a thing?
To be fair, I don't either.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't really have eggs.
Is it needed? But anyway, Cara with that story there. Thank you, Cara, for reaching out. If anyone else has any stories that they would like us to read on the podcast, maybe we inspire you. Maybe there is something similar to what we've been talking about that you've experienced, or a little
maybe you want to be a guest.
Maybe you'd want to be a guest. Any way that you want to get involved. DM us on Instagram. If you know me personally, WhatsApp me. I'm sure you can do the same with the other two boys. But with all that being said, finally, let us dive into the first story, which I will start. It's the title of the story. I found it again on Reddit, on a subreddit called Paranormal. Mm-hmm. And it says, after years of hearing weird noises in our house, we captured something eerie on video. So it has a video that goes along with it and some audio that we'll get to in a minute, but I shall read it first. First of all, I have never believed in ghosts and don't consider my home to be a creepy place at all. The house was only built about 9 years ago, and as far as I know, the land it's on doesn't have any dark history of any kind. However, ever since we moved in, we have experienced some strange things. The weirdest part is most of what we have experienced involves toys, aside from one time my brother says he clearly heard our dad calling his name from downstairs, only to find out he was the only one home. I think that's happened to everyone. It's just like pareidolia, you hear stuff that maybe wasn't actually there. One reoccurring thing we've heard tons of times over the years is the sound of someone digging around in this big plastic tub of Lego pieces. Could have been you.
It was me.
When we were kids, we all collected and built bionicles all the time in our playroom upstairs. The sound of shifting the pieces around to look for a part makes a very loud and distinct noise that everyone in our house became familiar with. I'm sure you're familiar with it, Jack. But it became common for us to hear it when we were certain that there was no one up there. When we got older, we stored our vast collection of bionicles and tub of loose parts in a long closet, which is a closet that you'll see in the video when we show it. And we've continued to hear the noise coming from there every now and then. We have always been confused and weirded out by the sound, but we never bothered to record the noises just because everyone in our house has heard it firsthand, and a recording of the sound of Legos in the room next door didn't seem like it would interest anyone else. We told a friend about this who thought it was crazy and insisted that we record it next time. Not long after, both of my brothers and I were watching TV and heard the sound from down the hall. They immediately started recording and we got pretty decent audio of the noise. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Okay, you come round here. Okay, so this is the video.
Yeah, I hear that loudly.
You can kind of hear it now.
Yeah,
it sounds like the rustling of Lego in a box.
A familiar sound for some.
That's loud. Yeah, that's very loud. Come in. What's going on now? Shh. What the heck?
I'll post the link for this video in the description of this one so that you can actually go watch the video for yourself.
Dude, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nobody up here.
So this is the long
There's
cupboard.
literally nothing in here. And look how heavy this is.
Full of Lego and there's no one in there.
Yeah.
And that's the box that they think that they can hear the sound of it from.
What the crap? There's nothing in here either, look.
And you might be thinking, that's a bit rubbish. That's what Jack's thinking. However, there is one thing that you may have noticed whilst we were watching that video, or you may have not have noticed, but we will go back, and it's a visual thing, so it's not just audio. If you think that you couldn't hear the Lego, there is another part to it. But I'll just quickly read on a little bit whilst you're here, and then I will go back and watch the specific bit that I'm talking about. So it says, we sent the clip to our friend who showed it to several other people who all got creeped out and started to want to spend the night in the house to hear it for themselves. When they came over, our parents heard all the hype about the video and wanted to hear it, so we just Chromecast it to the living room TV so that everyone could watch it. So they're having a little party watching this video, which we've just watched.
Hopefully this was before COVID times.
Yes, and they weren't disobeying the rule of 6. That's when we all noticed, and you might have noticed it yourself, a large bionicle It's one that we designed as kids to be huge, so it towers over the store-bought ones. In the back of the closet, turns its head towards us right as we're leaving, and you can actually see it do this in the video. We'll go back. No one had noticed it before watching it when we were watching it on phone screens, because phone screens are fairly small, and we all thought the action was over anyway by that point of the video, because the sound of the rustling has stopped. We immediately went upstairs to check it out and found that the head was in the same position that it was at the start of the video, although its neck joint is pretty rigid, so we don't think it could have just drooped or fallen. It's definitely pretty eerie. I want to reiterate that we have never felt unsafe in our home. We are not bothered by the things we have experienced, but they are a little strange. Let me know what you think. So that's the post, and I will quickly show Jack here, and everyone at home can see it as well. So it's the big barnacle there in the back. You can clearly see weird like twig things on its head, like a two-pointed twig thing. The antlers, they move to look at them. They're looking, so it's looking away, and then they're leaving, and the camera pans out of the room, and the robot looks towards them. I watched this last night by myself in my room, and even though I don't believe in ghosts and spirits and that, it made me want to, like, my legs were drooped over the bed, my legs were straight in the bed, under the covers. It really spooked me out. Obviously, these guys, it could just all be a lie, but it just seems so real, the way that the video is recorded. And also, you can clearly see that head moves. I wasn't sure when I first saw it. I was like, why is this the most highly rated post on this site? Because the audio is like, whatever, maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. But it's so obvious that the head movement of that thing, and there's no one in that room. It can't be a windy room, it's a closet. What do you think about the head movement?
I'm thinking maybe it's not the actual thing that's haunted. Maybe it's like, because you hear like of saying maybe like a ghost has made it, like the wind.
Yeah, or maybe there's a ghost on it and twisting the head, because there was a ghost with its hand in the thing to get their attention. It
was quite like, if it's like a loose fitting head, it would be quite easy for it to. But obviously, there wouldn't be any wind in that room.
It says in the video, it says in the post that it's obviously you've got to take everything that they say with a pinch of salt. But it says that it's a rigidly moving head. So maybe it couldn't even have been wind if it wanted to be.
That's so strange.
That is strange. I'm very glad I found that video. This is one of the first times. Usually, whenever I hear stories, it's like, yeah, okay, cool story, bro. And the whole time I'm like, but I wish there was just video of it. And they actually recorded a video of it, and it's not on some like old BlackBerry phone with like terrible video. It's not the best video in the world, and the camera's moving almost straight after. But first time that there has been a story that with video evidence that you can clearly see what it is that they're talking about, in my opinion. Yeah. Whether or not it's a ghost, whether or not it's a spirit, or if it's just, I don't know, maybe faked or some other explainable thing, but the whole story that goes along with it of the people looking at it on the Chromecast, it sounds like such a believable story.
Yeah.
That it really put the freaks up me, personally. We're back to our positions, and we've just had my story. Very good, I would say. I would rate it a solid 8.
Yeah, I like the subject matter.
Yeah, Lego, something close to your heart. And we will move swiftly from that to your story. Take it away.
Cool. So basically, this story I came across, I think it was during lockdown, and I definitely messaged the group, but no one remembers it. Messaged the Dead Air, Lights Out as it was known back then.
Dead Air.
Group chat. And yeah, so I came across it. It was a link to an eBay listing, like a really old archive. I don't know how famous this story is.
I remember you telling us about it. And I, in my head, I was like, okay, that is a really good story, but I did not read it at the time, so I don't know what it's about.
Anyway, so basically, I'll just get into it because it's quite a long story. So it starts off, this listing, there's a couple of photos of this item, and it says, all of the events that I am about to set forth in this listing are accurate and may be verified by the winning bidder with the copies of hospital records and sworn affidavits. I don't know how you say that.
Affidavits.
Yeah.
There you go.
That he is including as part of the sale of this cabinet. And the winning bidder will also be able to contact most of the people mentioned herein for the purposes of verification, corroboration, and to gain insight into the full scope of whatever this is. So basically, this guy in 2001 went to like an estate sale, which I'm guessing is like the American term for like a car boot sale. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple of items from this old woman who passed away. I think she was like 103. But just a backstory about this woman. She was in the war. She was in the Holocaust, and she was in a concentration camp, and she lost all of her family, like every last one of her family members, during the war.
Not good.
No. And then she moved to Spain, where that's where they think this item came from. She acquired a small wine cabinet listed here on the site in Spain, and it was one of only 3 items she brought with her when she immigrated to the United States, which is where the story is set. The other 2 items were a steamer trunk and a sewing box. And this guy purchased this wine cabinet along with the sewing box and some other furniture. And after the sale, he was approached by this woman's granddaughter who said, "I see you got the Dybbuk box." And she was
The what? Sorry, say that again.
Dybbuk. D-I-B-B-U-K.
Okay.
She was referring to the wine cabinet, and he asked her what it was, and she just said, "That's just what my grandmother called it. I don't know what it is." But she kept this wine cabinet in her sewing room.
And we do have a picture of the wine cabinet that we can put up.
And what's inside as well. But it was always shut and set in a place that was out of reach, and the grandmother she always called it the Dybbuk box. And when the girl asked the grandmother what was inside, the grandmother spat 3 times and through her fingers and said a Dybbuk and a Kesselim. Yeah. And basically this grandmother...
Spat 3 times through her fingers?
Yeah. Obviously the grandmother was Jewish.
Right.
And then she told the girl that the wine cabinet was never to ever be opened. Anyway,
that's like telling someone to not think about an elephant.
Exactly.
It's just going to happen.
So the granddaughter also said that the grandmother wanted the box to be buried with her, but it wasn't buried with her because of the rules of an Orthodox Jewish burial. So this granddaughter didn't know what any of these things were, and he was like, "Do you want to open it with me?" And she was like, no, she didn't want to open it because the grandmother has been very emphatic and serious when she instructed her not to do so. And then he was like, "I'll just have the box if it seems to be important to you." And she became upset and said, she raised her voice to me and said, "You brought it, you made a deal." She yelled, "We don't want it." She began to cry and asked him to leave, and he quickly walked away. And he just thought, well, maybe it was just the grief of what was happening and stuff. Anyway, he also owned a small furniture refinishing business.
Refinishing?
Refinishing is what it says.
Refinishing, maybe.
Anyway, he took the cabinet to the store. He basically wanted it to do it up for his mum as a birthday present. Anyway, he put it in the basement of this workshop, and didn't think anything more of it. Opened the shop for the day and went to run some errands, leaving like a staff member in the shop behind. After about half an hour, he got a call on his phone from this staff person, and she was absolutely hysterical and screaming that someone was in the workshop, breaking glass and swearing. Furthermore, the intruder had locked the iron security gates, and she was locked inside this place. And he told her to phone the police, and then he quickly went back to the shop, and he found his worker in the corner of the office sobbing hysterically, and then he ran to the basement and went downstairs, and at the bottom of the stairs he was hit by an overpowering, unmistakable odour of cat urine.
Cat urine?
Yeah, and the lights didn't work either. The lights were out. And as he investigated, he found that the reason the lights didn't work also explained the sound of the glass breaking. All of the light bulbs in the basement were broken. All 9 incandescent bulbs had been broken in their sockets, and 10 4-foot fluorescent tubes were lying shattered on the floor. But he did not find an intruder, and he put, "However, I should also add that there was only one entrance to the basement. It would have been impossible for anyone to leave without meeting him head on." And then the salesperson just left and never came back, basically.
There's a theme in both of our stories, I'd like to continue in a second, of something happening, it being audible, and then there being no one there and no way for them to have left. Exactly.
So after about 2 weeks, after he made the purchase, he started refinishing it. I don't know if that's a word. So he opened it up, and it was cleverly built. It, like, if you open one door, another door opens, and inside there was some US pennies from the 20s, like little coins, 1920s, a small lock of blonde hair, a small lock of black or brown hair bound with string, a small granite statue engraved and gilded with Hebrew letters, and he was told that they spell out shalom. One dried rosebud, one golden wine cup, and one very strange black cast iron candlestick holder with octopus legs. Anyway, so he saved all of the items and took them out of it, and then he decided not to...
What a haul.
Yeah, he decided not to do it up. He just cleaned it and rubbed it, and then basically, to cut it short, on his mum's birthday, he gave it to his mum. She seemed to like it. While she examined it, he went to make a phone call, and he hadn't been out of sight for more than 5 minutes when one of his employees came running into the office saying that something was wrong with his mum. And then he said, when I went back to see what the matter was, I found my mum sitting in a chair beside the cabinet. Her face had no expression, but tears were streaming down her cheeks. No matter how I tried to get her to respond, she would not. She could not. It turns out she had suffered a stroke and was taken to hospital in an ambulance. And then she ended up suffering partial paralysis and losing her ability to speak and form words, which she has since regained the ability to speak. But she could understand things being said to her and could respond by pointing at letters on an alphabet to spell out what she wanted to say. So when he asked her the following day how she was doing, she teared up and spelled out the words NOGIFT, no gift. And then he assured her that he had given her gift for her birthday thinking she didn't remember, but she became even more upset and spelled out the words hate gift, basically. And he laughed and told her not to worry, and that if she didn't have to have the covenant, she didn't like it. It was a bit like, what? And he didn't really think anything of it, so he didn't associate anything that happened with the cabinet itself or anything paranormal, and he don't think he ever used the term paranormal until recently. Anyway, he gave the cabinet to his sister, and she kept it for a week and then gave it back, complaining that she couldn't get the doors to stay closed and they kept coming open. But there's no springs in the door mechanism, and he'd never found the doors to come open, so that was weird. And then he gave it to his brother and his wife, who kept it for 3 days and then gave it back. His brother said it smelt like jasmine flowers, and his wife insisted it put on an odour of cat urine. And then he gave it to his girlfriend, who asked him to sell it for her after only 2 days. I sold it the same day to a nice middle-aged couple. 3 days later, when I came back to the shop to open for the day, I found the cabinet sitting at the front doors with the note that read, "This has a bad darkness." So he took it home, and things got worse. Since the day he brought it home, he began to have a strange recurring nightmare. This is quite spooky. Every time it's like he has this horrible dream, and it goes something like he finds himself walking with a friend, usually someone he knows well and trusts, at some point in the dream, and then he finds himself looking into the eyes of this person he's with. It is then that he realises that there is something different, something evil looking back at him. At that point in the dream, the person I am with changes into what can be only described as the most gruesome, demonic looking hag he has ever seen. This
Rude.
hag then proceeds to beat the living tar out of him. And then he has awakened numerous times to find bruises and marks on himself where he'd been hit by this old woman during the previous night. Still, he never related the nightmare to the cabinet. And then about a month ago, his sister, brother and wife came over to my house and spent the night. His house, not my house. And the following morning, during breakfast, my sister complained that she had a horrible nightmare. She said that she recalled having it a couple of times before, and went on to describe the nightmare that I just described it to the last detail. And then the brother and his wife froze as they listened and chimed that they both had the same nightmare as well during the night that they spent in this house, which had this box in it. And then he also called his girlfriend to recall if she had any nightmares in the house, and she described the same nightmare, the same hag and everything. Since my family discussion, it seems like all hell is breaking loose. For a week afterwards, he started seeing what he can only describe as shadow things in his peripheral vision. In fact, numerous visitors to my house have claimed that they have seen these shadow things. I put the cabinet in an outside storage unit and was awakened when the smoke alarm in the unit went off in the middle of the night. When I went to see what was burning, I opened the door and didn't see any smoke. However, I did get hit by the smell of cat urine. When I went back inside, the smell was there in my house, and he does not own any cat or anything. So this stench is sort of following him around.
Can I just say,
What?
I didn't mention it at the time, but I think it's probably a good thing to bring up. About 30 seconds ago, when you said the whole peripheral vision thing, about 5 seconds later, I was thinking about how I haven't seen anything like that. And then this thing here, see this, obviously this bit of tinsel, I must have breathed too heavily and it moved. And as I was looking at you, and that was in my peripheral vision, that
would be on camera as well.
It scared the crap out of me. I was like, hey, you might be able to see it on the footage. My heart like sunk for a second of just like utter terror, because I thought I'd seen something in my peripheral vision just as you said it, but it was just that moving. But maybe it wasn't my breath, maybe it was a ghost.
Anyway, so he brings his cabinet back into the house. And then he fell asleep once again and had the same nightmare. Woke up around 4:30 and it felt and smelt like someone was breathing on his neck. And he found that my house now smelled like his house smelled of jasmine flowers, which was previously mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Just in time to see a huge shadow thing loping down the hall away from him. And then he said I would destroy it if I could, but he didn't understand it. So he's basically selling this horrid cabinet thing.
Mm.
And then there's another short story from the person who bought it off of him. So he managed to sell it.
Okay, so he sold it on eBay.
Yeah.
Do we know the price?
I don't know. It's got the dimensions and stuff. I'm pretty sure you can find it out. I think it was like 20 quid.
We'll leave the link to this article or this like.
It was really
whatever
difficult
it was, in
trying
the
to find
description as
this thing because I found it before and then I was like trolling through. Anyway, it says
well, everyone who's watching this will be able to find it very easily. It's right there.
I bought the box from the first seller. It says, I think they mean seller, above in the eBay auction. Curious about it. And then, for the sake of information, he did some research. This new guy saying that a dybbuk in Jewish folklore / mythology / teaching / whatever is a misplaced spirit that can either rise to heaven or descend. That can neither rise to heaven or descend to hell. Essentially stuck in limbo or purgatory. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another definition he found. Basically, a demon that enters the body of a living person and controls that body's behaviour. If you believe in paranormal phenomena, the box contains or is possessed by at least one dybbuk, possibly two. As the grandmother stated, a dybbuk and a keslim, which is like a Turkish word for a priest.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of correspond to the items in the box, it says. But this guy was a skeptic. He said he was doubtful of the haunted box and he still doesn't believe in the paranormal. What happened in August and September is likely coincidental. And then this is what happened. He wrote like a log. So as soon as he got it, he's put, over the last week, some interesting, though possibly coincidental items of note have come up. Firstly, I share a house with 6 other people. We have been taking turns sleeping with the box in each of our rooms.
That sounds like a terrible idea. Okay, so whoever bought this is definitely up for finding something creepy going on.
Yeah.
So for the rest of this, take it with a pinch of salt, because if someone's bought this after hearing that description,
but he just
they're
said he was a
definitely
skeptic,
trying to find something. Okay, right, yeah, well, that's fair enough. I'm not saying that it's not right, but
anyway.
This person was definitely wanting to find some creepy shtick.
2 people are now complaining of burning eyes. One is listless and depleted of energy, and another is becoming spontaneously sick.
COVID?
In retrospect, I would say allergies, he says.
If it was in February, definitely COVID.
It was in August 2003, so unsure. A few days after...
Swine flu? I don't know.
A few days after these ongoing annoyances started, the air outside the house was filled with small bugs for several hours. A Friday. Weird summer stuff, possibly? That's what he put.
Everyone knows the weirdest stuff happens in
So he's like you, he's trying to back it up.
Right.
Last night, Saturday, we discovered that the box, now located in the back corner of the house, had become mostly open, though it had been shut, and it seems unlikely that anyone could have touched it. And then it says, though it seems impossible to prove that the box is the direct cause of misfortune, we have definitely seen a tidal wave of bad luck. Strange odours now permeate through the house. The dumpster out back overflows with trash and decay. One roommate suddenly got bronchitis and I broke a finger. Several mice have died in the engine of one car, and more electronic devices seem to be dying every day. Xbox, toaster, TV, watches. I don't really want to talk about anything that happened between September and January, so I'll just say that I'm selling the box for a couple of reasons. Around the 6th of October, I started feeling bad with trouble sleeping. This problem has persisted through today. 2. I live alone now, and as of late, I've noticed replacing a lot of burnt out light bulbs and getting many unusual car repairs. 3. I've started seeing things, sort of like large vertical dark blurs in his peripheral vision.
A classic symptom.
4. I smell something like juniper bushes or stingy ammonia in my garage often.
Stingy ammonia, also known as the smell of cat wee.
Yeah. And
which has been mentioned before.
But a different way of saying it, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
And I have no idea of where it's coming from. And 5, most disturbingly, last Tuesday, my hair began to fall out. Today, it's about half gone.
Oh.
I'm in my early 20s and I just got a clean blood test back from the doctors. Maybe it's stress related, I don't know. Anyway, for personal reasons, I very strongly do not want this box anymore. I hope there's someone on eBay who will take this thing off my hands. I would just throw it away in the woods or something, but I know that there has been some interest in it in the past. And then that's it. And then he was going to sell it. I don't know if it got sold. I don't know what happened to this box.
Do we need to buy the box?
But he was going to sell it for $20.
Dead air investment.
All chip in.
All chip in.
No way.
£7.50 each.
And then
that's not good maths.
There's some photos of this thing. And it does look pretty creepy.
Photo on screen right now. You've probably already seen it, actually, from earlier in the thing. Can I see it?
Yeah.
Let me see.
That's the inside of it.
Oh, very nice.
So obviously, there's the Jewish scripture.
Yep. Okay. Is that the outside?
That's the back. The back says something. It was like a Jewish prayer or
Yeah.
something. So, yeah.
Well,
what do you think of that? I think that is so spooky.
that is really spooky. The fact that it's all like sold on eBay and you can see that there's receipts of people buying it. And
yeah,
stuff.
this is like a genuine sort of eBay archive listing.
Yep. So what I saw before is that it's on the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
The whatever it is, and the Wayback Machine, it isn't like some sort of weird place where people like write stories or anything. The Wayback Machine, which you can, there's a link to this thing, that Jack's reading. It's an internet archive website. So all stuff that's been maybe taken down, or a website's gotten older and it's removed a lot of stuff. It's a way that you can see some old pages of the internet which aren't there anymore.
But it's not necessarily for ghosts, is it?
No.
Yeah, I've just been reading it now. It says the winning bid was $280 in February 2004.
The original one?
No, whoever bought it off this other guy. But I don't know what's happened to it then.
It's been a long time.
We could find out.
If we haven't heard anything from them, it's probably a bad sign.
Yeah.
They have been killed by the box.
But I just think it's scary. Eliminated. Just looking at it now, it's just like a proper listing. Like anyone could buy that.
Yeah. Very good, very creepy.
Yeah.
Very good stories today. Similar theme of being able to hear something in a different room, and then when you go there, it's not there.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have been recording now for a very long time. I'm sure that we were a little bit rusty today. It's been a long time since we've done this. It's sort of like coming back for a second pilot. This is season 2, so sort of is. But I'm sure we'll be able to edit this down into a really good episode.
So this is like pilot of season 2?
Season 2, episode 0.
Yeah.
Yes, which I think, I'm not sure if it'll end up coming out as that. I think it might just be episode 6 on podcast platforms. But we'll see. Anyway, you will know. Thank you very much for listening. Happy Halloween.
It's not very spooky. We do apologise.
The area's not really spooky, but the stories were. I know everyone's pants are very wet. Go and change them.
Yeah. Hopefully you've been listening to this as a podcast and you won't see us and see how
yes.
modern and not spooky our surroundings are right now.
Hopefully you're just listening in a dark room on Halloween night, because none of us can go out this year on Halloween, especially not if we're in Manchester, because we are in tier 3 of COVID lockdown. However, you will be able to get a little bit snug in your bed, maybe have a pumpkin flavoured drink of some variety. A lot of those are very popular around this time of year. Turn the lights off, get in bed, put some pyjamas on, cuddle up, put your headphones on, and hopefully that's how you've been listening to this podcast. Thank you very much, everybody. I have been Renny. You have been
Jack.
And James has been
not here.
Absent. Hopefully he'll be back soon. This should be coming out on the 31st, and you can expect new episodes in season 2. We're going to start recording them probably the week after Halloween, so don't expect another episode for maybe 2 weeks after this one. So mid-November, episode 1 of season 2 with a guest. Hopefully we'll be in the other studio, because hopefully we'll have James. We can only have 3 people in here, but we can have 4 people in there. So until then, thank you very much for watching the new and improved Dead Air podcast. Come back! Something I forgot to mention. Everyone always plugs their things afterwards, and we haven't been doing that, but we're going to start doing it now. I always just want to rush and end it so that we end on a good note. However, it is important to me, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like the video, because it was good, and don't lie. Leave a comment. If there's anything that you would want us to discuss in the next video. The first story that we told about the person's dog catching those 3 eggs, that was just a comment that I found from someone that I don't know. I have no idea who they are. It was a comment on one of the last episodes. So if you want us to read something, you can post it in the comments of a YouTube video if you're watching it. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you very much. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a 5-star rating, and you really should. And other than that, follow us on our Instagram.
And Twitter.
And also, you can send us any stories that you want to our Instagram or Twitter. Let us know that you're interested in telling us a story that we can tell. Or if you want to just come on here and tell it yourself, that's even better. Get involved. Goodbye.